welcome guys once again. I am your host of the night, and my name is Alvin. Before we start, let me introduce you to our speaker of the night. Is an alumni of SCC, and also he's one of the cadets in 42 KL and is currently the senior software engineer of 72 MAP. So let us welcome Rain. Take it away, Rain.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Alvin, for the introduction again. So I'm gonna share my screen. All right. It's gonna do like this. Can you guys see my screen? Should be okay, right? Okay. So let us get started to the second session of Svelte, right? So yesterday we went through a very simple syntax of the Svelte, like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and we go through how data management works in Svelte, and we also went through some logic blocks, if, else, some each block, most importantly the key each block. After that, we went through some of the input bindings and also the DOM events. On play, we have like on directive, and lastly we have the bindings, the bind directive that bind to our input tag. So same goes to the flow of yesterday. We have some of the topics that we're gonna cover today, which is component lifecycle. It is a little bit more advanced, but you will start to see everything wrap up and how Svelte really handles, and not just Svelte actually. If you're working for any other front-end framework, right? For example, Flutter, for example, React, for even for like Android, you have Jetpack Compose. For iOS, you have Swift. Basically, all the framework will stress on this thing, which is life cycle. Like how do they update the state? How do they render it on the HTML? How do they render and update the DOM? Everything like you go through like a flow chart, right? What's the first step, second step? What if this happened? What if that happened? So this is really when it comes down to the underhood logic of a framework of how we do the life cycle. And we have a state life cycle. We'll talk about state life cycle, how Svelte handle the state as well. And for example, yesterday we talked about assigning, right, the equal sign. So like what happened if you update the variable, right? How does it reflect on your screen? So there's a state life cycle as well. These two are the most important thing. But I want to cover two more, which is stores. Source is you can think of it like global variable. So for example, yesterday we have props, right? So the parent passed down the name to the child component and stuff. But sometimes we wouldn't want that to happen, right? We want like something more loose. Instead of tied together, we want something more loose. This is where stores really comes into hand. You can think of it another way. It's global variable in a way. And all the variables in that component is local variables, and stores allow you to do like a global variables. Lastly, we have a slots, which is how can you write your code in a cleaner way. Not really important, but you will find it like you use it like quite frequent. So which is why I put it inside today's topic. So let's jump into component lifecycle directly, right? In a component lifecycle, there are two things. One is on mount and on destroy. This won't make sense for now, but let me give you like some of the example. So for now, I will be doing like a demo. This one you guys probably don't need to code along with me, because this thing is really on the theory part rather than like a hands-on, right? Not something that you can use, but it's like a theory. So I'll be giving out a demo for login and logout behavior. And when I type on this input tag, right, it will reflect on this I am. So for example, if I type Rainchai here, it will say I am Rainchai and something. So if I click login, it will say, I'm logged in. If I log out, it will disappear. So this is I think it's a simple enough example to show you how Svelte handles, like how do they render the buttons, how do they update the state Like for example, if I type this, what will happen next? So I will really go through one by one like that. Okay, so let's give it a try. So now I have my VS Code open up, which is empty one. So I have already have my folder ready. So I'm gonna do the npx digit same flow. Npx digit will clone the repository down to wherever you point it to, and then I will do an npm install. So probably take 5 more seconds. Okay, so npm run dev, which spin up the local host. Then I go to here, should be seeing like a hello world like this. So before I do anything, I want to show you the inspect. So right click, inspect. So you'll see something like this. Let me collapse a little bit so we can see clearly later on. Okay, so something like this. This is I'll be using these elements and console tab. So I mean, by right now you should be familiar with these dev tools already. Okay. So next thing, I will remove everything, and I will create what? I'll create this input text with 2 buttons and also like a p tag that reference the name. Okay, let's do it. I'll give like input text like that. Name and ID I can put empty for now. So if I save, should be seeing like an input tag right here. Then I have a button that says login, and then another button that says log out. Okay, so log in and log out. The next thing I want to do is to bind the value to our variables. So to declare data, we can do like a script tag. Let name is equals to empty first. So whenever the input value change, right, I want it to update the name variable as well. Then after that, I have a p tag that says referencing the name. So if I ever type like rain chai, right? So now you can see like whenever I type something, you can see the p tag is being updated. I want to focus on this also. Let me zoom in a little bit more so you guys can see clearly. So I want to take attention on this p tag. So if I remove, right, you can see this p tag is being updated accordingly based on that. So I'll really deep down into like how it works later, but this is a behavior for now. So I want to create 2 functions, one for login, one for logout. All right. So I want to declare a variable that says is login equals to false, and I want to have like a login function. So login function say is login is equals to true. So I want to have a logout function as well. Is logout login equals to false. All right. So whenever I want to have like an if. So for example, if I'm logged in, I want to say I'm logged in, for example, right? So we can do that by using a if logic block. So the syntax is a if is logged in. This. So if this is logged in, then says I am logged in. All right. So okay, cool. So instead of having the name here, I want to put it inside here. So like that. Then I can bind the function. Let's say not really binding. I can assign the function using the on directive. On click, log in, and on click, log out. Pretty straightforward, right? So now if I type anything, it won't show anything. But if I say log in, I'm logged in, and I can say rain chai. So if I press on this log out, this should disappear because this login is equals to false, right? So disappear right now. Okay, so pretty straightforward for now. I think not something fancy. So the next thing I want to do is to show like a full example, right? I want to create like I want to extract this component into its own So I will say user profile itself. So I can cut this, paste it right here. We need to declare the name, right? So I can say script let name is equal to this. But we want to expose this variable such that here can control, right? The app.spell can control. We can do that by having an export keyword so that it exposes the variable. Okay, next thing I will do is import this component that I created just now. So I'll call user profile. And the next thing is I want to reference it here using it just like my HTML tag. And I want to reference the name here, which is one that I expose. I expose it here, and then I can use it. I can control it here. So which would be the name that we have it inside here, inside the input tag. So now if I click on login, I'm logged in and I say range this is a intended behavior. Okay. So now here comes the little bit more confusing part. So I'll be talking about the component lifecycle first. So a component lifecycle means how Svelte handles when he detects like he needs to do something. Okay, so we can do this. So inside Svelte, right, it has a function. So let us go to the documentations. It has a function called onMount. So onMount is a function that you can import from the Svelte library, and this will call when Svelte has successfully injected the HTML code to the body tag. All right. Okay. So I will import it first. I'll show you guys what it does later. Okay. So then I can say sorry, onMount. So which it accept and callback. So and the callback. So this is an arrow function. So when mounted, right? Okay. So before this, I think I want to explain some of the terminologies. Let me get my flowchart. So onMount, just this. So this is a flow. Okay. Oh no. I'll go down. Okay. Like this. Okay. So this is the flow, right? So when the user, yeah, come on. Okay. Yeah. So when the user landed on the page, for example, if I go to this localhost 8080 and I refresh, right? So when I landed on the page, remember yesterday, right? So we have a public.html. So the user will see an empty HTML file. All right, the user this is what they receive. It received like an empty HTML file that reference the bundle.js. So bundle.js is bundled by Svelte because Svelte is a compiler that compiles all your code into a single JavaScript file. Okay, so when the user fetch the but after the user fetch the bundle.js, right, the browser will execute the bundle.js. It will execute this JavaScript file. All right. So when you execute and stuff, right? Execute, then you find out like, oh, there is a text, a p tag that I need to inject into my HTML body tag. So that a browser need find out that it needs to inject the in our case it's a p tag to the HTML body. We call this injecting. When it's injecting, by means injecting, it means it's like creating the tag and inside this body tag. We call it mount. Like the keyword is mount. We call it the mounting. Okay. So after the browser injected the tag into the HTML body, we call it mounted. All right, we call it mounted. So onMount means when this component is injected into the HTML body tag, run this command, right? Okay, let me give a demo. So when this component, this app.svelte, maybe I shouldn't be doing it here. Because okay, it's okay. I just do it here. So when this app.svelte is injected into the body tag, you will do an alert. I am injected into HTML body tag. All right. So now if I save, and I want you to notice something. Okay, let me expand first. Okay, it's F. It's a bit hard to see like this. Okay, you know what? I'll be doing it inside my user profile here. So I import here, and then I do the onMount here, right? So it's easier to see. right? So now something like this. Okay. So now if I refresh, nothing happened because the is login is false. Okay. This is a good chance to explain as well. So why is this not mounted? Why is this code not injected? You see, like there's no p tag that says, no, I'm logged in, right? There's no p tag that says I'm logged in. So that's because we have an if statement here. So Svelte will only inject the code when it's necessary. So it won't be like redundantly go and inject some random code into your body tag. It's really efficient. So this will be injected when this is logged in, when login is equal to true. So can repeat that. So browser sees that, Svelte sees that, okay, is login is equal to true, then it will see, okay, how do I render, so what is the correct HTML code I need to render and stuff. Then after you figured out everything, right, then only inject the HTML code. So for example, I want to focus on these elements. So now if I click on this login, what it does is that it will inject the p tag, which is right here. So, but this is empty now, right? So it will inject a p tag inside an empty p tag. Okay. Then I press on OK. Then only it will put in the data. So which this is for later on I'll cover on the state lifecycle. But just to put it up, the first thing that Svelte do is that when you click on this button, it will inject the empty HTML tag onto my body tag. So after it injected, it will call this function alert and injected. So this is on mount is running after it injected. Okay. So now if I press on OK, then it only execute the state. Okay. So comparatively, there is a on destroy function. So it's an on destroy function. Okay. So on destroy, it does exactly the opposite. So when this component is destroyed, or we put it another word, when I say destroy, right, what that means is remove from the HTML tag. Okay, let me bring up my flowchart as well. So for example, okay, not this, this is a state one. That's okay, I just do like this. So when I, let me put in this alert, I am removed. So I will be removed from HTML body tag. Okay. So now if I press on this on login, it will inject the p tag and I press on OK. So now if I press on logout, what it does is it will remove this p tag. Why? Because we have an if statement that says only show this p tag, only have this p tag when it's logged in. All right. So I press on this logout. The first thing you will see, it will call this function. So just now it's different, right? Different than the on mount. On mount, that it will call after it injected the p tag. But on destroy will be called before it's removed from the HTML body tag. So now if I press on OK, you'll see the p tag is removed now. So you'll be asking like, why do we need this? Why do we need this function? Because sometimes, right, there are some of the state that we need to, for example, for example, canvas. So there's a HTML tag called canvas. So canvas tag. So canvas is a HTML tag for you to draw content. All right. Canvas is a HTML tag for you to draw content. But if I just do like this, right? Okay, how do I demo it to you? Okay, we do like this. Okay, I'll do a live demo. I didn't plan it out, but I think this will work. Okay, so if I just do like this, right? If I copy the code and paste it right here, you will not see it render out the. Okay, let me show you the end result first. If I just do like this, right? If I run it out, you will see like the rectangle, because it's a context, not get context 2D, and then you draw like a rectangle. Okay, so you draw a rectangle, but because of the life cycle, remember, right? So if we just do it like this, the rectangle will not show up. Okay, let me show you. if I press on login, you will see this is what happened. Where's my is there like a okay. Cannot get context of now. Yeah. So okay. Okay. Better do like this. Console.log document.queries are not regularly accepted. Okay. So now, right, if I do like this, okay, so I have this canvas element, right? And if I just look like this, you will see the get element by ID is equals to now. Why? Because when the Svelte see that he needs to inject this HTML code, right? This script will run before it injected. All right. Okay, repeat. Before it inject this p tag, it will run this script tag first. So for example, you export a name, so which is why later on we can reference here. So we have the export, for example, name equal range height, right? So before it inject the HTML code, it will run this script tag first. Then that means, right, because we run this script tag before we inject the HTML code into our DOM or our body tag, if you think it easier. If we just do a document.getElement by ID, you will get now, because the element is not inside the HTML body tag, right? Yeah. Is that making sense? Because it's a really important concept. So if you guys can understand, just type in like yes or one or something. So I know that you guys can understand now. Yeah, because I want to be sure like everyone is on the same page. Okay. So now let's get back to this, right? If I do document.getElement by ID in this script tag, you will not be able to get the element because the element is not yet injected. So to solve this, right, we have this onMount. So onMount will be called after the canvas tag is injected to the DOM or the body tag. So now if I put it inside here, right, what you will see is if I press it now, you can see it can get the canvas. All right, you can see it can get the canvas. All right, so this will be particularly useful if you are dealing with a situation like this, where you need the HTML tag to be present on the DOM first before you do anything. So that's when we want to use onMount, right? That's when we use the onMount. It's to resolve a situation where you want the HTML tag to be present on the DOM before you do anything. So in this case, now we gotten the if we put it inside the onMount, we can get this because this will run after it injected. Okay, so now if I save this, you can see this will be successfully rendered. Compared with just now, it will show like an error. So this is why we need the onMount. Same goes to an onDestroy. Actually, sometimes you need to clear up something before you remove the HTML tag from the DOM. Then you can do the onDestroy. Okay, so that's the component lifecycle. I hope it's clear enough. Because if you are going, even if you are not looking for Svelte, right? If you are going for React, if you are going for Flutter, it's almost a similar life cycle. So it's really important for you to understand this concept, because knowing this, right, it's easier for you to migrate to other framework later on. If you don't understand this, it will be harder for you to go for React, go for Vue, go for Flutter, whichever. So having this concept, this fundamental in mind, onMount means mounted. Mounted means I inject the HTML code. Having this concept in mind, later on it'll be easier for you to pick up other frameworks. Okay, so I hope that's clear enough. So to repeat, onMount will be called when a component is injected into the HTML body. onDestroy will be called when the component is going to be removed from the HTML body. Okay, that's a component lifecycle. So I'll be moving on to state lifecycle. If you don't understand component lifecycle, do really bring it up in the chat, or else you won't be understand what it has say lifecycle. Okay, this is a topic where lots of people don't get it. So if you don't get it, you will see a lot of bugs coming up in your program. So this is not talking on behalf of some nothing, right? It's my actual experience. If you don't understand what lifecycle, you will see a lot of bugs and you don't know where it comes from. Knowing lifecycle can really help you understand where your bugs coming from later on when you develop your application on every framework essentially. Okay, so I'll be moving on to state lifecycle. So compare with component lifecycle, right? Component lifecycle is something handling with the DOM object, like inserting the p tag, inserting the canvas tag, inserting the button. All these are component lifecycle. But when it comes to state lifecycle, right, we have actions. We call it hydrations, or it's a terminology from front frameworks. But essentially, what it means is that after it inject the HTML code, it will figure out what need to be populated inside this HTML tag. All right. For example, we have this p tag here. I am logged in as ASD. Okay. So now if I refresh, okay, let me remove this. Refresh. Then press on this button. What it will do is that it will prompt out an alert that says I'm injected into HTML body tag. But the p tag is now empty. All right, because it's the component lifecycle is only responsible for injecting the p tag. It's not responsible for populating the data. The data or the state in this case is I'm logged in, then name. So this will be updated after it is mounted. All right, so when I press on OK now, you will see the I'm logged in being appeared. Okay, so now say I'm logged in. Okay, so repeat the whole flow. Svelte sees that he needs to inject. Because this is this updated. He needs to inject the p tag. Okay, so that's the component lifecycle. He inject the p tag first into the DOM object or the body tag. Then after that, he go on to the state process. We have the component process. Then we have a state process. The state process is responsible from getting all the data. Okay, what need to be populated inside, what need to be right. So this is a state process. So same goes to on mount and on destroy. We have a before update and after update. Okay, so now if you look at this, I want you to so there's a before update and an after update. Okay, so now before update will run before the Svelte change the content inside or change the data inside. Okay, so before update, before it add this I'm logged in into the p tag, run this command or run these functions. Like it says, I am going to update the p tag now with the correct name and data. All right, so now if I save this, the moment I press on this on login, okay, so the thing, okay, so now it's showing up here. Now I'm logged in. So now if I type on any single characters, I type on R, it will say, okay, before it updates this p tag, it will say I'm going to update the p tag now with the correct name and data. If I press on OK, I want you to take attention on this p tag. It will update this p tag. Okay, it update this I'm logged in, then R, like that. So that's what state process means. But there's one thing. Let me show you. I think after I show you this, it will be making more sense. So what if I put a name here? What do you think it will show? Will it show empty name or show the R or anything? So the correct answer is it will show the R. So, right, the name is R, R and data, but it is not yet, you can see it is not yet reflected on the DOM, right? Because if I look at this, right, now this is empty, ma. So if I press on OK, it is going to update the P tag right here. Okay, so if I press on this, you can see R is here. So if I press on one more character, A, right? So you can see if I reference the name here, it's showing the correct name. They're showing the RA. But in the actual screen wise, it's not yet there. It's only showing the R, not yet the A. That's because it's not yet updated the DOM object. Okay, so remember component process, then we have a state process. The state process haven't gone to the end. So I press on OK now, you will see that it manipulated the DOM object and put in the correct value right now. Okay, so same goes to after update actually. After update, will run after it updated. Will run after it updated the P tag. Let's say it's so let me now I had updated the P tag, but you may not be seeing it now. Seeing it now. Okay, I will explain to you later why you will not be seeing it now. Okay. Okay, so I'll expand this, press on this R. Okay, so now before you update the DOM, you will call this alert function with the correct data. If I press on OK, okay, now you see it updated the P tag already. I'm logged in R, but the thing is, you couldn't see the R here, even though it is inside the DOM object. Okay, so even though it's inside the DOM object, but you are not seeing this R. Why? So to bring up this thing, right, we have to go one level deeper. It's about how browser actually renders the P tag, the DOM object. So inside the browser, there is also a lifecycle, right? So we have a Svelte lifecycle. Then inside deeper, we have a DOM lifecycle. So this is something related to DOM lifecycle. So the first thing it will do is that it will find out, okay, so this P tag is updated. And then I'm going to render it on the screen. So, I have, so I see that the DOM object is updated. Then the browser want to reflect it on the screen. But this task particularly, is queued inside the browser DOM queue. Okay, so this task is also a function that will run, right? So browser see, okay, DOM updated. The next task I need to run is to reflect it on the screen. Okay, so there is also a task. It's also a life cycle. So now, the reason why you are not seeing it yet, it's because this after update function. So okay, maybe you guys can look at how I put out the gesture, so it makes more sense. So you have the P tag being the DOM object, which is this, the P tag updated. Okay, so the next thing is the browser wants to update the screen, right? So that's the end. But this after update function runs before this task, so it's at the middle. So it's at the middle. So it's just why you see it's blocking it. All right. So why is not blocking it? So now if I release this event, right, then you're going to the next task, which is updating the screen. So now I press on OK, you'll see updated in the screen. Even though like the P tag has already been updated, like 1 or 2 tasks prior. So that's what we mean by the state lifecycle. There's even I think this is now making more sense, right? So how does the Svelte do the knows that this will be updated? How does Svelte knows that I press on A? How does Svelte knows that I press on A? You can see the RA here. How does Svelte knows that I press on A, and this should update the p tag under here. So it's using the equal sign. So it's detected by using the equal sign, all right, or the bind directive lah. So this is really important, which is why in the previous session I keep mentioning equal sign is the key. It's a entry point where Svelte detect whether it should update the state or not. Okay, so for example, name is equals to R like this. So he see the equal sign, then you know, okay, I need to update the state already. I need to run the state process. I need to run the rerun the state lifecycle. Okay, so you rerun the lifecycle. The first thing you see is that, okay, now this is updated. So I want to find every places that reference to this variable, which is here. Then he knows that, okay, this component referencing this variable. So I will go inside this component. I will go inside this component, okay? And I will find everywhere that referencing this variable, which we have it here. So with the correct name, RA, and data. So this is how the data will flow, okay? So it's only the state. It's only the state, the data that's flowing in, but it's not reflected onto our screen, all right? So that is a state lifecycle. So you see the state lifecycle updated, then you will tell the component that says, okay, the p tag is referencing this, right? Okay, now I want you to update the p tag as well. Okay, so you can see there is a very clear, distinct responsibility between component lifecycle and a state lifecycle. State lifecycle is only responsible for handling the data part. Component lifecycle is responsible for handling the DOM, handling the re-renders and stuff. So both are like a clear, distinct domain. So it doesn't go one-to-one. It goes both that bi-direction way. The state lifecycle triggered and updated, then it will tell the component lifecycle that says, okay, now re-render yourself, update the p tag. Then the component lifecycle, oh, okay, I received this event, and this state guy told me to update the p tag. Then okay, I will do it. I will do the manipulation and stuff. So that's why you can see like that's basically what the lifecycle is. Okay, so talking about this, right? Talking about this state, talking about this component lifecycle and on destroy. So this will answer why do we need the key each block yesterday? Okay, so to give you a recall, right? What is a key each block? So a key each block is each block with the ID, right? With the bracket. So I'm not sure if you guys remember. So for example, we have let history. History is equals to 1, 2, 3, 4 like this. Then we want to I want to say for each okay, sorry, a bit like each history as item. Then we have each. Then we will say want to put into the p tag lah. So now we look back into this each block, right? We understand how it works now. So when I do a refresh, you can see it for each of the item here, it will create a p tag 1, p tag 2, p tag 3, p tag 4, like this. So why do we need the ID, right? It's because, for example, if I remove one of the item here, for example, if I remove 3, if I remove like this, okay? So based on the logic, based on the theory just now, right? The first thing you will do, okay, state lifecycle run first. No, state lifecycle run first. So you'll say, okay, everywhere they reference this variable, update yourself, okay? So which we have it here, right? So, but Svelte here is being a little bit clever and causing a bug, but no, it's trying to be clever. So what it does is that, because now we have a 4 p tag now, like 1, 2, 2. Okay, that this is before before I update the state. 1, 2, 3, 4 like that, right? So then we have the original state looks like this, right? Looks like this. Okay, so this is how we render 1, 2, 3, 4 like this. So now if I remove one of them, just like this, the Svelte don't know which one to update. Well, it has 4 p tag here. So which one should I update? Which one should I update? Should I update this? Should I update this? Or should I remove this? Or should I remove this? Or should I remove this? Svelte has no way to know which one to remove, because it cannot distinguish each p tag. I mean, looking at like our bare eyes, right? We couldn't know. For example, if I do like this, you know, we wouldn't know like which one is 1, which one is 2, which one is 3. This is what Svelte sees. 1, 2, 3, 4. He doesn't know the context. So what he can do is he guess. He gets, okay, maybe this one is the correct one. Maybe this one is correct one. But in reality, it's not one. In reality, this is 2. It's not 3. So for us to help Svelte to identify which p tag is p tag, what we do is that we have a bracket. You know, we have an identifier which is unique. Okay, so we can give you an item, but in reality, right, it will be your item.id like this. So okay, so give you a better example. So for example, you have an ID is equals to a, then the value is equals to 1. Then we have a different one, which is the ID is equals to I don't know, like some random ID, right? Then we have value 2. Then we have 3, like some random ID. Then we have value 3 like this. Then for each of the history as item, what we will do is we reference the value, item.value, because it's an object. So we have ID. So ID has to be unique. ID has to be unique. So doing this will let Svelte knows that, okay, now I know how to distinguish between all the p tag already because you help me So now I can do like this. Okay. So instead of having it before we add the ID, right? Now we have an ID. You can think of it like this, like it's arbitrary, right? In reality, you won't see the ID here. So but in the case you will see, okay, ID is equal to A, then ID equals to this, then ID is equals to this. Okay, just like that. So now it doesn't need to guess anymore. So for example, if I remove this, right? If I just remove this like this, completely from this, then he can identify, because you give me the ID already. So now I know the AAS, the AAS is the one that I need to remove. So I remove it from list and render it correctly. So which is why we have to go, yesterday I say we have to go like a big one round to understand what this is trying to solve. Okay, so this is trying to solve is something related to the lifecycle hook, or the lifecycle itself. Okay, so I hope that clear up more of your mind when it comes to lifecycle. It's really important because sometimes even not Svelte itself, like React, you face this issue from time to time. There's a whole big topic around this, like how should we handle the state management, how should we do the component lifecycle. There's a different team, like Google has its own philosophy, Facebook or like React, right, has its own philosophy, Svelte its own philosophy. Not every framework handles it the same. So before I jump into another framework, right, this is the first thing that I would see, like how do they handle the life cycle? How do they handle, like, what's the first step, second step, what is this? Because when it goes deeper, right, this is the part that will trick you. Like, all the bugs will start to come out if you don't really understand this fully. Okay, so that's I think that covers the state, the life cycle in general. It's really a big topic, which is why I really want to bring it to today's session instead of yesterday. Because if I put it yesterday, everyone probably don't have the capacity to consume. Okay, so now you can give it easy now, because the big topic has just solved it already. If you ever has any questions or thing, do let me know. If you still cannot catch it, can rewatch this video after the session. I think SCC will upload it to YouTube or something, and they will let you guys know. Okay, so So let's go on to the continue, shall we? We should continue to the next one, which is store. So stores itself, as I said just now, it's a global variable. You can treat of it as a global variable. So we have stores, which is right here. Okay. So so it's also like a function that you can write, but bear with me. What I will do right now is that I'll clear out something first. Probably don't want this. Probably don't want this. We only want to keep this. Then like this. Then it expose. Okay. Probably don't want this also. Don't want this also to keep it clean. Don't want this also. Okay. Very simple. Just two line of code. And we have this, right? Then I can say name is equals to name. Name. Okay. So what this is trying to do is, when I type something, you update. That's something you update. Okay, very simple. So, but from time to time, right? For example, what if user profile has a child component as well? Like for example, name, import name, right? Then I have like a deeper component. For example, let me just create it for simplicity's sake. Same like this. Then I can say p tag. No, just a name. Simple one. Then I can say a script, let name equals to something, and we want to let the parent control, right? So we can say export. So then we gonna import the component from here. Name not svelte. Yeah. Svelte. And then I have like this, right? Yeah, put it like this. So I pass the props that I so I pass down the props that I receive. So you can say like this. Name, so which is a variable here. Okay, so behavior will be like this. So but you can see how it goes, right? Maybe this name component also has a child component that goes deeper. So you have like level 1 component, which is app.svelte, level 2 component, which is user profile.svelte, level 3 component, which is like you're nesting it, which is a name.svelte. Maybe you have level 4, level 5, level 6, level, I don't know, level hundreds or something. So you can see, like, if you want to handle, like, keep passing this down, it creates a redundancy, right? Because like you have to keep exposing the variable expose to the top and pass down. That's really inconvenient. So instead of a local variable like this, what we can do is we can declare a global variable, a global one. So we can do so by having something called a store, okay, which is something called a store. So inside store, we have 3 different store, but let me cover, you can think of it as global variable. The writable global variables. There's a writable stores, which is official term is writable. But if you write to think it easier way, it would be writable global variables. So what you can do is I can create a file, just store.js. It doesn't matter what the name, right? Maybe just ABCD or something. But then inside here, this is the place where I want to manage all my global variable. I want to declare all my global variable inside this file, so that I have like one single file that I can manage. Okay, so the next thing is, if you look at the documentation, my iPad, I can do like this, import. Okay, I import this writable from Svelte store, and I can declare a variable, maybe called export. This is a typical JavaScript. It's not really something we spell. Stores.js, but it's a JavaScript. So I can export constant name equals to writable. All right, or maybe just a letter. So I can declare a global variable called name, right? I can declare a global variable called name inside these stores. Then instead of declaring here, I can do is import from stores. I can import the global variable. So I can call it name like this. So I don't want to show anything first. Let us console.log and see what's inside. Name. Like this. Like this. So if I now, you'll probably see nothing. So, but if I console.log this name, right, you'll see it's an object. It's not really a string. It's not anything. It's like object. So what is this, right? So in order for us to access it, to give it a value, we can give it here. For example, initially by default, my name is Rainchai. So now if I refresh, you will see like it's still an object, but we can what we can do is we can have like something like this name.subscribe. All right, there's a better way to write. I will introduce a syntax later, but just bear with me with the very traditional and original way of writing. So stores, right? If you think of it like that, it's a global variable, man. Global variable also a variable, man. Also a state. So that means whoever referencing this global variable, he needs to be notified and updated if this variable updated, right? For example, name will reference to this stores, user profile reference to this global variable, app.svelte will reference to this global variable. But each component needs to be updated, right? Remember just now when we covered the state lifecycle, he needs to be updated and re-rendered when the global variable is changed. So so in Svelte, right? Instead of having like just like this, right? Not sure why, but the author of the Svelte decided to use a function instead of just a name equals to rain, I guess. Maybe there's a like different way. But the default way is that if you want to read the value, you have to call this function. So console.log v. So now if I refresh, you'll see it can get the range child. So if I say change the variable here. So if range changing, it doesn't matter what you put inside the default value. I can put like a number also can, like an object also can. You can see like it updated. It doesn't matter what you put inside. It's just a value. So, but no, we're looking for a string. So just a range child like this. So this is how you can read the value, subscribe, or there is a much simpler way, but it's a little bit advanced syntax, is that you add the $sign in front. All right, let me comment this out. So now Svelte knows that, okay, you're trying to read the value. So instead of doing something else, you try to read the value. So what he will do is that he will replace this later on to the .subscribe for you. But this is for our syntactic sugar. So now you can see it referenced correctly. Say range change, you can see this is being updated correctly. So this is reading of a global variable. So what I can do now, right, is that I can do the same thing inside the name.svelte. So instead of exposing it, I can do like this. So I want to read the value. So I can do like a $sign here. So, but you're not going to see anything because I haven't imported in my app.svelte. Let me comment out. I comment back. So do like this. Probably don't need this yet. Then we don't need this, and we don't need this. So now you see, like I'm not referencing the name, but it can be accessed. It can be accessed because inside the name.svelte, I define the global variable and I import the global variable and I read the global variable. Okay, so what happens if I want to update the value, right? For example, we want to achieve the same function. Like we have the bind here, like this, do stuff. So we cannot do this anymore. We cannot do the bind value anymore. Let me import first. Import the global variable. And we cannot do it anymore. Wait, what? We can do it? I didn't know. It's probably a new feature. Yeah. So okay, sorry for that. So yeah, you can treat this global variable as how you like it to do. Like you can use this as like a normal variable, but now that you successfully extract this variable out of all of the components, so now you can do it everywhere you want. You want to reference it in the level 100 component, you can do it without any issues. You want to reference it into 50, doesn't matter. You want to reference it in the number 3, level number 3, we can do it like this as well. So it's a global variable. Okay. So how do we update, right? Okay, how do we update? Very simple. We can do just like how we do typically. We do like this. So now we have equal sign, which is do the reassigning and do the state lifecycle stuff. There is another way of writing to update the value as well, which is .set. If you are looking for a functional way, then we can set the name as rain new name like this. So this is another way of writing as well. No big issue. Whichever you think is easier for you, you can do it whichever way. But sometimes you might need to write it in a functional way, because you might pass this down as like a function to another callback, right? As a callback, but that's like something you use it in the future. Quite rare, but it happens sometimes. So you can treat it as a function, or you want to do it as a $sign. It works as well. But something to bear in mind is, if you just do like this inside here, inside the JS file, right? It doesn't understand what it is. like what is this $sign name? It doesn't exist. Even this couldn't find the name. Do you mean name? So that's because, right, this is a syntax that lives in Svelte. This is the power of framework, is that he can add any syntax he wants. But this, it doesn't work inside the .js file, because this is not .svelte. It's not a Svelte file, it's a JavaScript file. So if you just do like this, it doesn't know, it couldn't find this. So so there's something bear in mind. Which is why we need a function, because sometimes you need to interact with a JavaScript file, which is not Svelte, and it doesn't have a syntax. So sometimes you might need to do the wrong ways. Okay, so that's the writable stores. There is one more called Readablestore, which is a read-only global variable, just read-only. So you cannot update it. So for example, if I just do like this, right? Yeah, you see, you cannot update it. What's this? Yeah, it cannot update it because it's a read-only global variable. You probably sometimes you want to declare a constant, or I don't know, make something. You probably want to use this as a readable. You don't want other people to accidentally write something. So that's a read-only, a readable. So auto update derive global variable. Same. We have a derive things like this, but it's a little bit fancy. We can say let name prefix name equals to derive. So we can derive from name, and whenever the name is updated, what I want it to do, right, is that I want to return Mr. plus V. So what this does is that every time this name updated, this will also be called, and also then the value will be derived from the variables. Okay, so let's give it a try. Okay, probably not here. In the name not spelled. So prefix name like this. Okay, so you can see every time. I think it's because I put a readable. Let's put a writable. So every time I update something, this will be derived also. Just to show it more clear, right? We have a dot length instead. So now you can see this variable, this prefix name is derived from the name variable. So that's something that you can do as well. So that's what we mean by derived global variables. So that's it for the stores. And lastly, we're going to cover the slots. Slots is a simpler way of writing. I will show you what it is. Right now, let me prepare it just right here. Okay, cool. So now what I want to do is I want to remove this. I want to click everything clean. So it's empty state right now. Then I can create a component called box.svelte. Okay, so a box.scout. Okay, let's try the raw way first. Then we have like hash1 that says I am a box. This, let me go like here. You see nothing, but we can import the box from box like this, right? So now you see like it's a box. So I lazy to style it, so I just copy from my documentations. But yeah, this is something. But sometimes you have a different box one, right? That's quite typical, right? If you are working for like for example, you're working for a YouTube, for each of a box you display different content, display different content. So if I, for example, if I want to say, I want to have a different title from a different box, what I can do is that I can say export let title equals to empty. So then I can reference it here, right? A typical one. I can expose the variable such that I can control it here. I can say title is equals to title 1, same goes to like title is equal to title 2. Sometimes you want to have like a title is called title 3, like this. All right. So then you have different thing, right? But what if, so if you look at YouTube, right, you have like descriptions, you have like avatar, you have like these views like different years ago, and stuff like. So there's like more thing we need to add in, right? Like we need like the descriptions, description like this and stuff. But from time to time, you'll see that you're adding more and more properties, and sometimes you'll be thinking like, why am I even doing this? Like you're exposing too much props to the parents, and you are just doing something related to the HTML tag. And sometimes I want this sometimes I want to show avatar, sometimes I don't want to show avatar, sometimes I want to add like another card inside the card, which is like double card inside. Quite often we have this case, like a card inside a card. So, but then you'll find out that you'll be exposing more and more properties, like for say export let show the avatar equals to false, and sometimes then they will see a lot of props, which is bad. So instead of doing this, right, we know that whatever that's inside here will always be controlled by the parent. Then what we can do is that we can add like a slot. Okay, add like a slot. You probably don't understand what is this now, but let me show what it can do. So instead of writing the title equals to this like here, what I can do is that I can treat this as an actual HTML tag. Just like your div, right? You'll be wrapping it like this. Then you have like a hash1 tag that says I am title 1, like this, right? So this is like a div, right? So you want to do like a box. You want to wrap this div as a box. Then what you can do is you can do like this. Then we'll do it like that. You render it correctly. So like 2, like 3. And sometimes you want to have like a box. So you can treat your box as a div, right? Like a pre-styled, like a styled div that you don't need to styling it over and over and over again, because you can just pass in the whatever the HTML tag you want and description like this. Then you will see that only this one will have this. And sometimes I want to have like a different behavior, like we have like an image here. Sometimes I want this to have like another hash2. This is totally possible with the power of slots. So what slot is, to be specific, right? Slot allows you, so whatever that is inside here, right? What it does is when you see this, right, it will copy this code, and then replace it wherever you put this slot, right? So in actual case, it will be looking something like this. So if I look at this, right? So you have a blocks, which is a box here. Class equals the box, and then you'll replace your slots with whatever that you put it in. Okay, so with whatever that you put it in. So but you may be thinking like, sometimes I want like I just want an empty box, right? If it's doing like this, you will see empty thing. You don't want that sometimes. So what you can do is that you can define a default behavior. which by default is say I am a default title. A slot is also a hash, not really a spell tag. So if it doesn't receive anything inside, it will display this in that instead. So I'm default title like this. And then sometimes you want to like change the default value. So we like doing like, no, I am custom title like that. So that's totally possible. All right. So you can define a default behavior and then you can override it. Yeah. So you can start to see all this framework coming up together, right? So you can have the state, you can have all this syntactic sugar, you can have if log else, and you can have each. So all these things without even touching a single line of JavaScript, like actual document of vanilla JavaScript code, you can achieve all these things inside the Svelte already. But sometimes I want to have a different behavior. So for example, I know like I always have a title and I always have a descriptions. All right, but same issue, right? So what I can do is that I can give this a name, for example, title, and I want to have like another slot that says name is equals to description. So by default, I will have I am a description like this, right? So by default, you will have this two things. Okay. So, but now you see like, no, I am custom title suddenly disappeared, right? So that's because what we need to do now is that we can say, we can declare a div and I can give you a slot is equals to what title like this, or maybe I can just do like this, right? Then I have a slot is equals to title, right? So then you will see like a custom title. Then maybe for this description, I want to have like a different thing. I don't want it to be a p tag. So I want it to be a div with some image. And then I have some p tag that says I am custom description. Then I have a slot is equal to descriptions. Then I have a source is equals to this dev / tutorial / image GIF. Then we have some alternate is all right. So this is totally possible. Like what it does, right, is that when the actual rendering, let me show the inspect. If you click on this, you'll see that slot equals to title will be then replacing this. Okay, replace this, and descriptions will be replacing this. Right, so in the ultimate result will look like this, title and custom title, but for different one you have different behavior. So this is particularly useful when you have different behavior. So for example, I want to wrap it with another box, right? That is possible. So I can say like this. Then I have like a div tag like this. That only does in the descriptions. So you can see all this coming in. I'm just giving a little bit more advanced example, but I can see I can stack box on the box, and then you have like custom title, default title, and then like descriptions also different. So then you can stack, and then you have like slot, and then you have this, you have that. So all these things come very easily with syntax like this. So yeah, so that's it for the slot, and I think that's all the content from my side today. So today it's not as late as yesterday because today I only actually just want to cover the main one would be the component lifecycle, the state lifecycle. These two particularly, the stores and the slots are like the bonus. Okay, so moving forward, right? Like what's after this workshop? I would still strongly recommend you to go through the official website. Like now you have the basics. You can go through one by one, reading it out because right, there are more fun thing you can do with Svelte. Like for example, this one you can add like a transition. No, like crazy. You can do transition here, and you have you can do all the thing here with using Svelte. It gives you all the libraries already. So I can do like this, I can do like that, and you have like some custom thing and like Spring. So for example, I want to show like this. So you can see like all these things can be achieved like within the Svelte context. All right. There are also like special elements like self, like body, Svelte body. There are like different tag as well, like different directive, like transition directive. So we have bind, we have on, right? We also have a transition directive. So you can start to see all these things come into hand. So in order for you to achieve this this effect, right, you only need 2 lines of code. 2 lines of code. All right. So let me better to show than say. Right? So for example, I can say import fade from Svelte /transition, and then I can say whichever place I want to transition. So transition fade like this. So just like that, 2 lines of code. So if I refresh now, you see nothing, but I can do like a duration is equal to 20, 200. What is it? Visible transition fade. It should be there, but maybe I should say 1000. Hey, how come it's not showing? Yeah, click on. How come it's not showing? Transition fade. This should be running when about just like this. Just like this. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you can see like achieving this effect is as simple as 2 lines of code, and there are like more and more to explore, right? Like for example, there is like Svelte Kit, there is a Sepal, but I don't recommend you touching Sepal right now anymore because it's deprecated. You can look into Svelte Kit, which is like fascinating philosophy. So before in the last session, I talked about client-side rendering and server-side rendering, right? So Svelte Kit is exactly at the middle. So it's like partly client-side, partly server-side, and it's like a hybrid lah. So it's really fascinating, like how and like the future of web development is. The Svelte Kit really inspired quite a lot of other frameworks to follow the trend as well. So if you're looking for like the future direction of web development, right, Svelte Kit it is the fastest way. So to build, I will say like web apps, right? It's the fastest way to do it. So really looking forward to Svelte, but it's not yet like version 1. So this is why we didn't cover it. But yeah, looking forward to Svelte, and looking forward for SDC to have more and more this kind of events. So maybe Alvin, would you like to take over?
Yeah, thank you so much, Rin, for providing us such high quality content and also such informative content. So let me change my screen first. Very sorry. Yeah. So before we end, we would like to encourage all of you guys to turn on your camera to take some picture for our record purposes, and we will post it on our LinkedIn. So if you guys want to hop in and like take a picture with us, feel free to turn on your camera. Questions to us regarding web development or something personal to Rain also. I will share the Slido QR code to you guys, and you guys can drop your questions there. So feel free to drop some questions here, and yeah. Anyone? We have one. So it's SvelteKit hard to learn.
Well, actually, I would say SvelteKit is not hard to learn if you had already picked up Svelte, because it's another wrapper to the Svelte itself. So instead of MTX digit SvelteKit, Svelte.js, you do like MTX digit SvelteKit. The untitled syntax and untitled logic, the lifecycle, everything is almost similar. So SvelteKit, I wouldn't say it's hard to learn. I would say after you pick up Svelte.js, it's definitely the next closest, easiest thing to learn.
What else? Yeah, there's another one. Can I know more about 42KL? Like, what do you teach?
Okay, sure. 42KL should pay me to do this. But yeah, 42KL is really about low-level programming. So when I say low level, for those that don't know, low level doesn't mean it's bad. Low level means it's more toward to the machine code level. So we'll be using C very frequently. So we really like touch to the bottom of programming, like really deep down the bottom, manipulating bits and bytes. We have to do our own kernel. So some at the end of 42KL things, I heard some of my friends, they remade a kernel. A kernel is a Linux kernel, so they remade it, and some people really remade the terminal and stuff. So it's really fun. Like if you get into 42KL, you're guaranteed, if you get into it, guaranteed to be like the top 1% of a programmer. So if you really want to like go for a top 1% and really understand programming inside out, go 42KL. Does the lifecycle explained here apply to all JS frameworks? JS frameworks is other JS frameworks React, and typically all the front-end framework, right? Not just JavaScript framework. They all share the similar lifecycle, but not necessary to be 100% same. It's just that sometimes they have a different philosophy which branch out a different way to handle the lifecycle. So it doesn't really apply to all of them, but I would say probably 70 to 80% are the part of the lifecycle are the same. Can I build apps with purely Svelte? Yes. Whatever that you see just now is purely Svelte already. Is a / required for a single text in Svelte? Since HTML single text can exclude the slash. Not really. It's required. So if you like, we call it the self-closing tag, right? So in Svelte, you are required to do the slash, unless you are doing the slot, which I presented just now, right? You have a slot, then you can ignore the /, but or else like you always have to do the /.
Anyone else want to ask some questions to Rain while Rain is still here? If not, we are going to move on to our next session. So going once, going twice. Oh, right, yes. Hold on.
There's one person, right? So
Yeah.
Can you share your programming journey till now? So my programming journey actually started in 2019. So I still remember, not sure if any of you guys come from foundation in science and technology, the FIST. So I still remember like my second semester has a subject called programming principle. So it teach about Java and stuff. So that's actually the first time I touched programming. Before this, I didn't even think of like become a programmer or like software engineer before. My first subject was my first priority in my degree list is finance and business, so and social psychology, not really software engineering and computer science. So but then like when I do the programming, I find like I'm enjoying it, and this is probably like something that I'm really good at, right? So which is why I choose computer science after. And through STC, I pick up a lot of other knowledges like Git, GitHub, and it's really like a platform for me to pick up a lot of skills that university did not cover at all. Like Git doesn't even cover a university degree somehow, which is very weird because it's like it's been like decades, I think. But it's still not yet covered fully. So, but yeah, so if you guys are looking forward for my journey, I think if you go through the SCC pathway and you really contribute and committed into it, I'll guarantee you'll be much better than your peers. What do I think about as a service like PaaS and okay? So platform as a service or software as a service or even infrastructure as a service, right? It's really a way of fancy way of doing stuff. But as a service means if you are doing a startup, you're packaging your products and renting it to other people to use, like platform as a service and software as a service. But if you're asking what's the difference between them, there's like a deeper topics. So when it comes to platform as a service, you can think of it like Netlify, like Heroku, this offer platform, right? It offers you like Node.js environment. Software as a service is like it offers you the software directly, like image recognition. This is a software itself, right? So it offers this as a service, and when you use it, you pay as you go. So that's like as a service business model. So how to host a Svelte website on web server? Do we just host the public build files? Oh yeah, this one I think I haven't covered. It's good that you bring it up. You can run this npm run build. So instead of npm run dev, you npm run build, and then you can host the public file directly. So the public directory, that's a file that you can like host directly. So npm run build, then host directly the public folder. That's it. Would you say Svelte is the least risky option for group projects due to the syntax and stuff? I would actually say yes, because the learning curve is way flatter, So if you are going for a group project, unless you are going for like super big projects, then you can go for React. For group projects wise, Svelte is definitely the least risky option when it comes to front-end framework, which is why I propose to other people as well when they do the assignment, because for people to get started with it, it takes probably like a day or two. But if you are asking them to pick up React, right, it will take them weeks to complete. So that's a different thing. What are some things that Svelte is missing compared to other frameworks? Okay, there's only one thing that Svelte is missing. Probably a few more about it, but for now, I'm just making it exaggerated, right? Svelte is missing a lot of library support compared with React. So that's the reason why we wouldn't use Svelte for a big project, because most of the time, right, the library support is not there. By library support, we mean community contributed library. For example, there are people who open source their library. So those are like the open source libraries, right? Svelte has a lesser library support and community support than React. So this is why is this a problem, right? It's a problem when you're scaling out projects and the person that made this library suddenly gone, then it's a problem, right? Because you want to maintain and you cannot find some alternative. So you're stuck, like you have to recreate the library and stuff. So that's why we wouldn't use Svelte for like the super big projects. Relating to web server, this means that the public build is a static website, so we can use something like that. Yeah, it is. Yes, you can just drag the public folder, put it into a GitHub pages, for example, and it will work out of the box. You can give it a try after this, like npm run build, and then just host your public folder. That will work. Okay, I think that's probably all the questions.
So we'll be moving on. First. Correct. So So thank you so much, guys, for joining this session and also last session last night. And thank you so much for participating. And it means a lot to for us to be able to see you guys here. And yeah, we hope to see you guys soon. So this is the QR code for the feedback form. So we would like to hear from you to improve our future event. And also we would like to hear about like what's interesting and what's good that we brought up today. And yeah, so feel free to fill out the form. And once again, thank you so much, Rain, for taking up your time from your schedule to speak, to be our guest speaker for today and last night. Yeah, very thankful to have you here as our speaker. So yeah, we would like to see you on the stage and speaking in general in the near future. So yeah, um, yeah. If you guys haven't followed us, feel free to follow our social media and also and also subscribe to our YouTube channel, as we will post our recordings on on YouTube to let you guys refer back. And feel free to scan our QR code to our link tree, which will be guiding you to all of our platforms, including the GDSC chapter page. And yeah, this marks the end of the Svelte Workshop. Thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you guys soon. Thank you.
Thank you.